supposed to be heard. That is where dissenting voices are supposed to be heard. And once that is done, then a political party takes a position that notwithstanding our individual thinking, feelings, the political party position shall be this. And that is the political party, that is the political position that is prosecuted in the House. Mm-hmm. Any member of a political party that is dissatisfied with that kind of position, then they have the right to say, I will not associate myself with this thinking anymore. They can exit the political party and then let the political party chart its own course as the individual then takes on their own direction. And that is why, quite unfortunately for this country, this order within political parties is usually taking too long to be attained. Mm-hmm. So that these so-called independent thinking expressions degenerates into what you cannot understand, because there is no way a Kenyan citizen who loves and is patriotic to his country can go and start saying unprintable things about their country. That negates the call for citizenship and patriotism as a citizen of that country. And this is what applies to a political party. Mm-hmm. That when a political party member shouts outside here a story that is discordant with the position of that political party, that person has no business being a member of that political party anymore. They should exit and prosecute their agenda outside the political party. And it is because we have very weak political parties, and their internal disciplinary mechanisms are extremely weak, and even the tribunal for political party dispute resolution is also equally weak, because it's a seasonal tribunal, and that is the reason why those cracks and weaknesses now degenerate to what we are seeing as noise and name-calling within political party members, which is really despicable. All right,
we'll talk about what you term as weakness of political parties and their systems of, resolving disputes and matters of discipline. But there are currently talks that the Jubilee Party, there's going to be a Senate parliamentary group meeting in the course of the day. I don't know how true this is. We get to verify that, but even as we have such reports, probably going forward, you've just talked about how crucial it is for them to take such a move. How would you advise that they go about this? What should shape the agenda for this particular meeting, bearing in mind what has actually, befallen the ruling party?
Thank you. Just before any political party is elected and assumes office, there is a manifesto they sell to the people. Like Jubilee sold a manifesto to Kenyans in 2013 and 2017. Out of that manifesto, they have deliverables that must happen for them, justify spending the taxpayers' money. It is these deliverables that a parliamentary group, whether Senate group or parliamentary group, is supposed to sit down and set out policy decisions that will translate into legislative interventions that will enable that political party attract the taxpayers' money to be spent to achieve that agenda for the country. And that is exactly why I'm saying I'm a bit surprised that we are going into opening of Parliament without, that policy decision consensus building. Yeah, because we have been talking about the big four in this country. I don't know whether they are still big, but they are four. I don't.
I see what you're doing there. Mm-hmm. Moving on swiftly.
I don't know whether they are still big, because if they are, then that forms the basis of a PG or a parliamentary group to sit and say, where are we in achieving the big four? Where have we fallen short? What interventions do we require to actualize the big four social promise given to Kenyans? And therefore, what budget policy decision then do we put in place to actualize and or expedite whatever may have not come within time. And unless this is what is guiding our coming together as a country, then I think we miss it. And that is why I am recommending to His Excellency the President that it is time to call the ruling party to order. And it is also time the handshake got nailed together so that if it is one of the vehicles to deliver the big four, then it had better be. Because you need numbers in the House to prosecute any government agenda. And thanks to the handshake, one would expect that the handshake was meant to achieve development for this country, peace and development. And for that reason alone, I expect that the opposition leader who has shaken hands with the ruling party should now create synergy between those two, call it quasi-coalitions, to ensure that within the remaining 1.5 years, the deliverables that had been promised to Kenyans are achieved.
But if you look at the political landscape, is it conducive for such a sober conversation to be had, for such a debate, or even just bringing issues of the big four on the table? Is it conducive?
It will never be. It will never be conducive, and that is why sometimes in management we say certain things must be held constant when operating in a business environment. The political environment in Kenya is very difficult to control because we are a country that is a perennial vote-seeking country, perennial political country, and it is like politics either drives or clouds the development agenda. And for that reason, and I think this is what informed the handshake, because politics was like submerging development, and therefore there became a need to get a formula to bring tranquility in the country, to bring harmony in the country, and for us then to prosecute the development agenda. While still holding our hands in that handshake, it is therefore important that we establish what is it that is congruent between the handshakers? What is it that is congruent, that is not an issue between the two? And these ones should together be fast-tracked and be actualized, because the followers of one handshaker and the followers of the other handshaker, the LC, the lowest common denominator, is they want development. And when they see development, it then makes the handshake more fruitful. But if the handshake is for political expediency alone, and this is what generates a lot of heat in Kenya, that the handshake was not for economic development, but for political empowerment. Yeah, when it is for political empowerment alone, this is what makes other people restless, and therefore they start their drumbeats of saying we are tired with this handshake, it's not taking us anywhere, because they are looking at the handshake as a vehicle to political development. Yet it was meant to be for economic development. Yet again, as I've just said, politics and development are Siamese twins. You don't know which drives the other, and
one cannot be separate.
I mean, they are inseparable. They are an integral part of business in this country. You can't talk about one without talking of the other.
But do we sometimes miss the point when we are balancing these two, development vis-a-vis politics? Do we sometimes allow ourselves to let one override over there?
Oh yes, and this is why I sympathize with the president at the moment, because he is so into making his legacy, which is really economic development. And that is why he's dying with his 4 agenda. He's trying to understand why people cannot stop the noise and focus their eyes on politics. Yet, for the president, who perhaps has no interest in any other political power at the moment in 2022, I mean, his business is limited to what can I deliver to Kenyans here and now. But the actors around him are not in that business. Their business is, time is over, we need to know how to survive after 2022. And this is really what creates the divergence between now the drivers of economic development when they are wearing political outfits.
All right. So the idea is noble, but the how,
the idea, yeah.
That is where the problem is. We're coming back to just pick up from that particular point, but I told you we'll be also crossing over to some of the activities that are happening in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and other parts of the country, and that is what we want to do right now, to take you to the Kenya Medical Training College headquarters. Today there is an event that is currently underway, the official distribution of personal protective equipment to KMTC, and this is being done by the Kenya COVID-19 Fund Board and the Equity Group Foundation. Let's just cross over there and listen in.
From the private sector, so that we can help to deal with the very, very, very serious threat, an existential threat, I dare say, of COVID that hit us sometimes early last year, around February, March. And in response to that, towards the end of March, we were appointed. Our chair is a strategist, and she kept telling us, you cannot boil the ocean. You need a lot of energy to boil the ocean. You can't. And therefore, you must draw water in some container and boil it. And therefore, in our very initial meetings, indeed, our initial meeting was chaired by His Excellency the President upon appointing us to commission us, we decided to just pursue the 2 things. One of them was livelihoods. Mr. Igade alluded to this, that COVID was not just a health threat. COVID wrecked lives. Our economy slowed down so considerably, and we were among the luckiest. Many economies globally went negative. Us, I think, shrunk to about 2% GDP growth. We were very lucky. However, that was a big reduction. At an individual level, so many people suffered. There were loss of jobs, loss of livelihoods. If you had taken a loan to grow your business and suddenly you are forced to shut down or to slow down considerably, then you even suffered. You couldn't even repay the loan. And thank you very much, Equity Bank and the other banks that have taken the lead to negotiate with our fellow citizens so that loan repayment is negotiated in such a way that you don't break people, you don't destroy them, and you give them a chance to sustain themselves. And in that regard, the fund decided to do livelihood support. We gave money to the worst hit. Direct cash. We did cash transfers. People who had no food on their tables, people who had lost jobs, people who had nothing to eat. And therefore, we decided that as a fund, we'll do that. The other major plank of our operations was healthcare, and especially frontline health workers. And therefore, this plank was to do with provision of healthcare support, mainly PPEs, personal protection equipment, and we went out of our way to make sure that in all the COVID-designated hospitals, we provided PPEs. You healthcare workers are our soldiers. I am a soldier in another world. In our world, we use other things to wage our wars. Yours are different. And in this particular case, you are our frontline soldiers, and we wanted to equip them with protective gear so that we do not expose you unnecessarily to danger. And we have been doing that. We have consistently provided PPE equipment to all the COVID-designated hospitals. Last year, towards the end, we reached out to University of Nairobi Medical School. We were here across the road, and we provided them with enough PPEs. And today, we have come here. This request was made by the chair of our health committee, Dr. James Mwangi, to the board on our meeting held on 2nd, and the board unanimously approved. Why did we do so? We want to believe that you are the medical care workers in the making. You are the students who are preparing to join that cadre of very important workers, and we must protect you. In your work, you come very close, you are in very close proximity to people who are COVID positive, and it is necessary that we protect you. I don't want to speak for long. What I want to say is that we have come here with the team from Equity Bank and our own staff from the fund to donate surgical face masks. Our promise is that we will keep replenishing them as you deplete them, as you use them, because you are using them in the course of training, in the course of working. And we are making a pledge to you that we will replenish as need arises. All you need to do is tell us. You know our contact persons. In our office, we have Mr. Clinton Mwita, who is my assistant as the secretary of the fund. And the bank has its point of contact as Bwana Igade and the others. So please tell us when you need them. I think I also now want to put on my other hat as a senior officer in government.
All right, so that is currently happening at the Kenya Medical Training College headquarters right here in Nairobi. And it's just the handing over of personal protective equipments to students. And this is being done by the Kenya COVID-19 Emergency Response Fund, who are collaborating with the Equity Group Foundation. And currently speaking there, you saw the PAS Kennedy Kihara, who is the representative of the Kenya COVID-19 Emergency Fund. We'll be giving you more details about this function later. But in studio, we're talking about what is shaping the debate in the country, and Parliament is resuming today afternoon after the long Christmas break. And of course, a lot is in store. They have a full entry, just like we were sharing earlier, even with my guest here. There's quite a number of issues that are going to be shaping the agenda for Parliament as it resumes business. And just to take you through them in case you're just joining us, you know, the House will consider and approve its calendar for the 5th session, and also reconstitute 5 committees, which include the House Business Committee, Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Committee, also the Committee on Members, Services and Facilities, the Appointments Committee, Budget and Appropriations Committee is also expected to be reconstituted. And also, among other issues on the agenda include the fact that the National Assembly will also focus on the approval of the budget policy statement for the financial year 2021-2022. And of course, the Houses are also going to be considering quite a number of pending bills, which include 50 bills that have been sponsored by individual members, 15 committee bills, which include the crucial referendum bill, and also 8 pending bills by the majority party. We have Edward Kabasa, who is currently at Parliament, and we will be linking up with him later to talk to the majority leader, Amos Kimunya, and of course we'll just get to understand more about what is in store for parliamentarians as they go back to business during that particular interview, which is coming up. And of course, we are also expecting to get an update on the planned Jubilee Senate parliamentary meeting that is also planned and slated for today. So in the course of this particular broadcast, any minute from now, we should be linking up with that also to give you a glimpse of what is happening, plus others that we are tracking for you right here in studio. This is News Check. Continue interacting with us on social media at KBC Channel 1, at Serfine_Achieng. In studio, you know, having this conversation with the constitutional lawyer, Steve Mogaka. Thank you so much for staying with us, Steve. And before we went to that particular link at the Kenya Medical Training College, we were just talking about the noble idea of the BBI initiative, and you were talking about how, you know, the challenges could be emanating from now. How do we achieve this whole big goal, this vision that the BBI is presenting? And I just want us to, first of all, from where you sit looking at the BBI initiative, how do you interpret the direction it is taking the country from where you sit? Leave the political voices out of it. As a constitutional lawyer, having seen where this country has come from and the vision that we have, the dream, the desire that we have as Kenyans, is BBI the solution? Objectively, from where you sit as a constitutional lawyer.
A tough question, because as a constitutional lawyer, you know, we swear to actualize the Constitution as is, and to defend it to the end. But every constitution, every law serves a purpose, because every law or constitution is meant to serve society. On this BBI, and if we can contextualize it, BBI is the intended first amendment to the 2010 Constitution. And when we were passing this 2010 Constitution, it was not unanimous. There were people who thought that there were certain critical amendments that required to be made to that Constitution before being enacted in August 2010. But again, the majority had their way, and the Constitution was passed as was drafted at the time. Here now is the dawn of the proposed first amendment to the Constitution. And clearly, this is an opportunity that Kenyans have 10 years down to look at where we are and whether the Constitution needs to be relooked at, where it needs to be relooked at. And really, this is the opportunity, and BBI is about that. Mm-hmm. And as Kenyans, we should not make any hula-baloo about it. This is the occasion for those who thought that we needed to amend the Constitution before passing it in 2010 to come and propose that they wanted included in that amendment. It is also a time where all users, because it is a user response now we are having, the constitutional users are being asked, where is it that you need us to tighten, to drop, to boost, and this is the occasion. Mm-hmm. And if we understood it as such, all these hula-baloos that we are having would not be there.
It's a constitutional moment?
It is a constitutional moment, and it should be a moment that we should approach very dispassionately, where we look at, is this amendment necessary? If it is, we support it. If it isn't, we say no. I mean, there's no big issue about it. Mm-hmm. However, because society has leadership and champions of societal thinking, it is therefore inevitable that certain personalities would emerge, situational leaders would emerge that champion this constitutional moment. Aspects of the proposed amendments will always have champions. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately for us Kenyans, we are intolerant with some of those champions of whatever amendments are proposed, and therefore we forget looking at the substance and look at the messengers. And that is really where we go wrong, and where we waste a lot of time having attitudes about messenger carrying messages. Then we miss it, and therefore can very easily lose a constitutional moment such as this. So what I can say on this national television is that for us Kenyans, it is a moment to dispassionately look at what it is that we are revisiting in the Constitution we enacted in 2010. Mm. That is good, let us support it. That is not good, let us forget about it, but always reminding ourselves as Kenyans that this is a mere first amendment. There will be several other amendments to come. What is not achieved now can be achieved next time coming. That is what I can soberly say as a constitutional lawyer. But these activities of constitution making or amendment will always carry political interests with them. And that is where we get our points of divergence, because certain political interests do not converge, and therefore everybody will use this occasion to drum their political drums, and that way Kenya will always descend into its usual political dance. When you dance yours on that platform, I will also dance mine in this arena, and that is the freedom we all asked for, and it is enshrined in this constitution. All right, this is a constitutional moment. It is. We ought not to lose it. That's Steve Mogaka. All right, we are going to be picking up this conversation, but you know, earlier I told you that the Jubilee Party had planned the Senate Parliamentary Group meeting, and you know, we are getting clarification that it's actually happening at KICC right here in Nairobi. We have Kevin Washira, a reporter who has been following up on this particular development by the ruling party Jubilee, coming at a time when a lot has happened within that particular party, a lot that you're going to be talking about in this conversation. But first, a very good morning, Washira. What is it that you know about this meeting, and what is expected, you know, to form part of the agenda today?
The meeting between senators, Jubilee senators, and
that part, but from myself, thank you very much. Well done.
But so far, we're still seeing some senators coming in. The president has not arrived yet. Senators, Jubilee senators, including those who are allied to deputy president, have already arrived. We've seen Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. We've seen Kericho Senator Aaron Cheruiyot.
All right, we seem to be having a slight issue there with the audio, but we are going to be linking up with Kevin Washira later on. He's currently following up on the planned parliamentary group meet, the Senate parliamentary group meeting by the Jubilee Party that is, you know, expected to be happening at KICC right here in Nairobi. Any minute from now, it was supposed to start at 10 a.m. That's the information we had, but, you know, we'll be giving you details about some of the issues that are going to shape this particular meeting, coming at a time, Steve, that the ruling party has really gone through a lot, if you may ask me. And yesterday, you know, there was that news in the evening that about 6 nominated senators within the ruling party had been expelled. This include nominated Senator Isaac Mwaura, Millicent Omanga, Victor Prengei, Falhada Diko Iman, Naomi Jilo Wako, and Mary Seneta. These are among the 6 nominated senators that were expelled yesterday from the ruling party Jubilee by the National Management Committee. Your quick comments on this move by the Jubilee Party. You earlier said that our political parties are weak, even in their internal systems of disciplinary actions. What do you think this actually, what message does this send about the Jubilee Party?
Thank you. I think what the Jubilee Party has done as a ruling party is normal. And it is what I earlier said, that once you subscribe to a political party, you need to you become subservient to their collective, the political party's collective decision and position. Now, the ones who have been expelled, and the law is very clear that you cannot be a member of a political party and then actively propagate ideas and promote a different political party. I don't know, I may be wrong. The people who have been expelled were summoned at some point to show cause why they cannot be expelled. And their cases have been in progress until this decision was delivered. I am not privy to the proceedings that happened at the in-house political disciplinary committee, but we have seen those particular individuals openly, overtly mutineering against the position of the political party, and even defying advice and or directions from the leader of the political party. And therefore, when that kind of situation obtains, normally, these senators ought to have relinquished their positions because they have a position different and in conflict with that of their political party and the leader of their political party. And therefore, to this extent, I think Jubilee political party had no choice. In fact, one was wondering why was it taking too long? This is not even what is worrying. What is worrying is that these nominee senators are answering to, they have their captain within a faction of Jubilee that they have been supporting to actively also mutiny against the political party. And
but you know, the announcement by the SG actually, you know, sort of alluded to the fact that it is actually based on these members, you know, going against the party's constitution.
Ethos,
they didn't go in depth to actually explain. I don't know, just to get you clear, are you saying that this is linked to their position in support of who you call their captain?
Yeah,
and of course,
captain, yeah.
Their position with regards to the Building Bridges initiative, if I just want to get you clearly on
Indeed.
that.
There are three things here a viewer needs to understand. That Jubilee political party has an agenda to deliver for Kenyans, which started with the 2013 and now the 2017. And within that agenda, unfortunately, BBI falls among it. And therefore, when, as a Jubilee government, the government floated the Jubilee item, one of them are the Big Four, the other is BBI, and there are several things on the table of the Jubilee agenda. There have been factions within Jubilee. In fact, a faction within Jubilee, in fact, I forgot to say that the handshake was also part of the Jubilee agenda, because Jubilee took power in 2017 but found the country ungovernable. And therefore, Jubilee as a party decided to have a handshake with the opposition leader for purposes of making the country governable and for them to prosecute their manifesto. And part of, therefore, the Jubilee agenda was the handshake, which translated to BBI, and therefore, now perhaps the referendum and ultimately constitutional amendment, if it succeeds or not. So the expelled senators have openly opposed the handshake. Without which I don't know where this country would have been, without which I don't know whether they would still be senators. And they think, while their party leader saw wisdom in entering a handshake, they thought that that was unwise, and they are against it.
But what options did they have? Because we have freedom of having your opinion, your standpoint on issues. It's a democratic country.
Indeed.
Existing under the umbrella of a political party, how does it work? What options could they have explored that probably would have actually gone well with the party organs?
Great question. And that is what I said earlier, that whenever you are a member of a political party, of course you are entitled to your own views.
Yeah.
But once a party has taken a position, then your views are no more. It is just like when we go to the ballot and vote, all of us have our candidate, but the winning candidate is the one who takes over, the reins of power. You cannot continue drumming about your one vote to your one candidate when we have a winner. And that is democracy. You can have your say, but that say is limited to your contribution before a position and decision is taken. Once the decision is taken, it's binding. That is the essence of collective responsibility, particularly on a political party that has formed government. Yeah, and therefore that is why I say that the expelled senators were ill-advised, that they can rebel against the party position. Mm-hmm. Rebelling against the party position will visit upon them the kind of disciplinary consequences that have been meted on them. And therefore that is why I said, if you are feeling so strong about your position as an individual, and the political party takes a position that is against it, the best thing is to walk away.
Very quickly, we're about to cross over to Parliament, but very quickly, a quick comment on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm yet to hear outrightly that camp say they are not supporting BBI. What we hear is it's not a priority for the country, and criticizing certain contents included in the BBI report. I'm yet to confirm and affirm somebody who has come out from that camp outrightly saying they are not supporting BBI. How do you interpret comments like it's not a priority and the critics? Very quickly.
Call it by any name. It is, as Jesus had said, you are either for me or against me.
All right.
And that is the position of the ruling party. Right. It is either you are for it or not for it. They are not for it.
Good thing is that you're still here. We'll pick up from there. But right now, let's also cross over to Parliament buildings. This particular morning, we have Edward Kabasa on standby. He's going to be having a sit-down with the majority leader of the National Assembly, Amos Kimunya, as Parliament resumes. A very good morning, Kabasa. Kindly just take it away. Tell us, what are some of the expectations? What is the order of business as Parliament resumes after the long Christmas break?
Good morning to you, Serfine, Achieng. The National Assembly and the Senate are expected to resume their sittings this afternoon after a long recess. The members of Parliament have been away for 2 months. A lot to talk about, in both chambers. But to help us understand what to expect when business finally resumes this afternoon in the National Assembly, I am going to be speaking to the majority leader in the National Assembly. He is also the Member of Parliament for Kipipiri constituency. He took this role in June of 2020 after some unprecedented processes within the ruling Jubilee Party disciplinary process. Honorable Amos Kimunya, thank you very much for your time this morning. How has it been? 8 months, right?
It's been 8 months, and I'm very happy that I've had very good cooperation from the members, both in terms of the technical staff and also the members of the National Assembly, and we've managed to do a lot of work without anyone feeling that perhaps you took over from Adendwele, who was my friend. We didn't have a competition. Mm-hmm. So again, because of that, yes, he left and I was appointed, so our friendship continued. So I still derive a lot of support from him and his friends, and hence it's been a very seamless service to the people.
Having served in cabinet, one would assume that perhaps your new role came with added responsibilities. Now you not only look at one department of government, but you oversee a whole lot of government business in the National Assembly. Yeah. How do you derive the experience, your experience in cabinet right now? Like, how is it different? Is it more challenging, or you're just made for this?
It's actually easier, to the extent that in the last 3 years of my 10 years of cabinet, I also served as the deputy leader of government business. If you recall, under the old constitution, the vice president used to be the leader of government business. But that's more by title than physical, because he was also so busy on other things. So the deputy would end up doing all the work. So I did all the work here, in addition to doing my work in cabinet and also the work for KBC. Hence, right now, all I'm doing is the work for KBC and work in Parliament. There's no cabinet responsibility. So it's slightly easier, of course. Times have changed. It's much more challenging in terms of the political setting. But by and large, I believe most of my work now rotates around coordinating the issues in the committees, coordinating what's happening with the members. Members keep, we have so many members with their own pending bills, and each of them wants it to be prioritized. I also have the committee bills, I have government bills, and we have to juggle with all those things. There's lots of petitions that keep coming to Parliament, lots of questions, and I have to figure out how we satisfy the needs of each of these members. So it's and there's lots of things that I just find myself doing. I'm not sure whether they're in my job description. I remember just walk in and say, of this issue, how can you help? Members who get stuck on their CDF, they come to me, they say, can you talk to the CS Treasury to disentangle the whatever issues there is. If money for constituency offices has not been released, exchequer releases, they'll be coming to me instead of going to the Speaker, who is the chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission. So we end up with, again, it's lots of things because people think you are their leader. So they bring all the issues to you, and up to you to do what you have to do. So but I enjoy it.
The fifth session of the 12th Parliament begins today.
Yeah.
A lot to discuss. The budget policy statement will be tabled in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
And Kenyans are really optimistic that perhaps this is going to be a very good year, considering that 2020 was very difficult, and the effects of 2020 continues to be felt today. In terms of leadership, what should Kenyans expect, not just from the Jubilee side of the National Assembly, but the entire House?
Yeah, indeed, 2021, we expect it to be a better year than 2020. 2020 came with its own challenges in terms of economic performance, which now puts pressure on the money available for carrying out the normal government programs. In addition, there's added pressure because of COVID, so more money has to be diverted towards health services, and also towards the post-COVID economic recovery. And also in terms of sorting out, social interventions, because so many people are being laid off, they cannot afford. But now 2021, we expect, we've seen the outturn in terms of revenue in the month of December. KRA has collected much more than and January, they've collected much more than the target, which means things are on the up. And that's optimistic. So the other thing that we need to obviously recognize is this budget is the last one that President Uhuru would actually be tabling before he gets into election. And hence, it will have to capture all his aspirations in terms of his Big Four agenda, in terms of the priority thing that he needs to have done, in terms of the social interventions he needs to have done in this last year. So this is going to be a challenging time. Limited resources, lots of expectations in terms of expenditure commitments. But we've seen the drafts, and we believe we can do it. It will be tabled by 15th of this month. I'm just been working on the reconstitution on the budget committee, which we will be tabling this afternoon before the House Business Committee. Then it will come to my selection committee. Once it's approved, then hopefully Thursday morning we can have the new budget committee constituted, and they will start looking at the budget process. Not also there might be a supplementary budget, that we might be looking at towards the end of this week because so many things have happened. So it's a very packed session. We have all the bills that we saved, because we said we don't want any of the bills getting lost. And there's like 74 bills that are awaiting second reading. Now, typically, every of those bills will need about 3 hours. That's 210 hours. If you look at, by the time you apportion all the time that's available, then they have to go through that reading, then they have to go through the Senate. Some of them, we have like 13 bills that are waiting committee of the whole. That's a simple 2 hours each. Then some, a whole 4 plus probably another 5 that I've signed. We have close to 10 bills that are to be introduced in the House. So it's about 100 pieces of legislation to be processed. We also have motions. We also have committee reports. We also have petitions. We have questions. And we also have COVID restrictions. Okay? So it's something we have to do to figure out what do we do with the workload, which is the most priority, right? And obviously we have things like the business laws. We have some health-based laws to actualize the universal health care. We have some agricultural sector bills, the coffee, the big size, and all those that we need to unlock the agricultural sector, which is key for one of the big 4 components, which is the food sustainability. And manufacturing, again, through some things coming through the Kenya Institute of Research and Development to unlock some things within the manufacturing sector. So we need to now start thinking of what bill supports what sector. At times I hear people saying we have forgotten BBI. We've forgotten the big 4 because of BBI. Yeah. And I know the whole budget for 2020-21, 2021-22 is all about the big 4.
Because a lot of that talk is coming from members of your own party.
Yes, perhaps out of ignorance more than anything else. People seem to forget what they've done in the House, or that we've actually put, or what has been done in Cabinet. Because the budget for 2019-2020, 2020-21, 2021-22 is all about mainstreaming the big 4. Right? And hence, the big 4 is still the center of focus. BBI is only one of the items. Okay? And of course, BBI will also be taking center stage in the House. We are very optimistic that the county assemblies will do their bit between now and end of the month, and based on our own evaluation of where they are, we believe by next week most of them will have passed. And once you have the critical 24 county assemblies, we can start the debate in the House. And hence, then move away from that and take it to the people. That will also mean taking members of parliament away from the House to go and campaign for BBI.
What sort of engagement are we looking at when that bill finally comes to the National Assembly? Already, someone might argue that battle lines are already being drawn.
No.
There are members of your own party who are threatening to, renege against the president and form their own alliance. We did see yesterday the deputy president did meet a number of them.
Yes. He met them as his friends. You see, as far as I'm concerned, I'm in charge of the Jubilee Coalition with 207 members. And I have not seen any indication yesterday that they met as members of Jubilee. They met as friends of the deputy president, not as a party, but as individuals who support the deputy president, who are sympathetic to his cause, right? But not as members of Jubilee. So, and I'm sure there are members from even other parties. Hence, and people are at liberty to meet who they want. Today, people will be going for lunch with a person of their choice. So, I don't see that as affecting the work of Parliament, because each of the members in Parliament comes to represent a specific constituency. Okay? And the interests of that constituency is paramount. So if there's a T bill on the floor of the House, you will not hear Tanga Kieleweke or NASA Jubilee issues on it. People will be looking at what is the best for the tea farmer, what's best for the coffee farmer, what is best for the sugar farmer. Similarly, when we look at health, that will be the discussion. And we usually have very bipartisan discussions on this. So similarly, when we introduce PBI into the House, there are several people who are looking at BBI in terms of what's innate for their constituencies. There are areas that are receiving an extra constituency. It will be unwise for any member of parliament to oppose BBI when it's resulting in an extra constituency in this area, because how does he then go and convince the electorate that he came to represent them for their interest? Similarly, there is lots of money going to the counties, and if you're going to oppose PBI, which will move more money to the counties, how do you go back to your constituency, which is within a county, and justify having denied them extra resources? So much as there's lots of political posturing out there, when you now talk to members of parliament individually, they say, when it comes to the House, we will pass, right? But when we now go to the referendum, we will gauge the mood of the people, right? But no member of parliament wants to risk, and in fact that's the same situation in the county assembly. Nobody wants to risk putting on the Hansard that they actually opposed a good thing, right? Because when it passes, records will never be erased, and Hansard will never forget, and people will be told there's an election coming next year. And the people who are opposing them will be first and to mention, look at so and so, he opposed more money coming to you.
And are you confident that perhaps when the document goes out there, when Parliament is done debating, Kenyans will see the need to have this piece of legislation in place?
Oh yes, because let's first of all look at the threshold for the passage of a referendum is quite low. In both houses, we only need 50% of the members, a simple majority. And whether we pass it or not, because it contains some articles that make it mandatory to have a referendum, it will still go for a referendum. So our consideration of the bill in Parliament is more procedural than mandatory. Then, in terms of going to the public, you only need 20% in a majority of the counties, plus a simple majority in terms of overall. Now, 20% of the votes is a very small threshold to meet. And you also know that in the absence of a strong no campaign, which we haven't seen yet, who will be there lobbying for the people to go and say no? Very few people, much as they are talking, they don't want it. Very few of them will wake up deliberately to go and vote no. So you end up with a simple majority. It's more like the repeat elections, where we had only President Uhuru Kenyatta as a candidate. People could have gone to oppose, but they didn't, because people need to be motivated by something positive rather than negative.
So why do we have a group of leaders challenging this process, saying that it is not what the country needs right now? Because from the way you speak, it is a good process.
It's a very good thing. In fact, what is happening is a number of members of parliament, a number of Kenyans have actually not sat down to look at what is contained within the BBI. Let's start from top page. What does it say? From a nation united by blood ties, which is the ethnic bounds, to a nation united by ideals, which is ideology-based politicking. Now, when I hear people in the political rally saying we need to move from ethnicity to ideology, that's exactly what BBI is doing, right? Now, when you look at that we need to pass, but people are only looking at the constitutional bill and saying it will create these positions, but there's so
That we are getting a bit of a hitch with our signal there coming to us from the National Assembly. Edward Kabasa having a sit down with the majority leader Amos Kimunya, just talking about what is lying ahead for parliamentarians as they resume their business today. A lot of issues emanating from that conversation there. We just want to take you back there to continue listening in.
Of what caused the crisis. And you just look at the appendix and look at all the reference documents that have been used to create that document. It's perhaps the most comprehensive document capturing the aspirations of Kenyans.
Right.
And people just need to look at it. Unfortunately, people don't look at this thing. You listen to what is out there, you read in the social media, and then you say this thing is bad. But when we look at it and when we now debate it, unfortunately, I actually did table and bring enough copies from members of parliament. So it's in a table office for people to actually look at. By the time we actually get the debate, I would want to encourage as many as possible to look through it, see and look at the document based on its content value rather than the hype out there.
Let's talk about the two-thirds gender principle.
Yes.
Your predecessor did introduce it in the National Assembly
6 times.
6 times.
Yeah.
Why has it been very hard for the National Assembly and even Parliament as a whole to dispense of this?
This issue about mainstream women in a parliament full of men. Surely, I know the desperation that the women members of parliament have had. We've been invited for parties and dinners, and people have said they will support, only to come to the floor of the house and find no support. And you need to get 233, 2,000 members to change the constitution. It's very difficult, and hence it got to the point where Chief Justice Maraga, just before he left, ended up advising the president to dissolve the House. It's that drastic. But the president, in his wisdom, said, what would I rather do? Disband the House or include the same provisions in the BBI? So we now have a good situation where members of the parliament don't have to be the ones making that decision.
Right.
The people of Kenya, who in their wisdom in 2010 said they want two-thirds gender rule, the gender rule applied on elective position. They then have a decision to make. Yes, we are happy. We know it will cost, but we are prepared to bear the costs. Okay. And it's going to be, it's limited to 3 elections. During those 3 election cycles, it also become clear, people keen on, basically, they want the two-thirds. Are they willing to also elect a women? And because of the way it's been done within the BBI, it's not just saying there will be a top-up. But the women are also being given an opportunity to participate in the election by IEBC ensuring. I think there's a provision within Article 89 that basically will then say that political parties will have to submit a list that is gender compliant. If they don't, there will be sanctions for that. And at least that gives women a foothold or one leap into the game. That 120 of them will be expected to be candidates. Now, conversion of the 120 from candidates to members of parliament is a combination of many things. And lessons will be learned in the first election, the second election. By the time you go to the third election, if people then say, this thing is not working, all right? Then people have a choice to then say, can we remove the two-thirds gender rule altogether, right? Because it was in the Bill of Rights in Article 23. It was made in Article 81. And at this point, the architecture of the BBI was to ensure that no gains that were captured within the 2010 Constitution were reversed. It can only be built on. So if people of Kenya decide they want to reverse something, they have an opportunity after BBI has passed.
All right.
When the reality hits them.
Okay, finally, you are a beneficiary of a disciplinary process within the Jubilee Party. Before you came to the office, there's someone who exited the office courtesy of a decision that was endorsed by the parliamentary group. Yesterday, we did see a circular which was issued by the party's management committee expelling 6 senators for breaching the party's constitution. Are we going to see more of that going into the 5th session? Because I believe as a party you need to push the agenda of government in parliament, and if at all you feel that that agenda is not being pushed enough, that there is a dead weight somewhere, then perhaps you need to shed it off. Are we going to be seeing more of that?
I believe there is. Okay, let me first of all correct the situation. I didn't come into the office because of a disciplinary process, because Honorable Duale was not being under any disciplinary mechanism. It's just the members who expressed that they didn't have the confidence in him leading because of perhaps he had exhibited allegiance to one faction, and hence people, are like not quite sure. They needed somebody who is neutral. But in terms of the senators, they've obviously defied the party in terms of, and they've been taken through a due process, and their matter has been found that they actually were in breach of the party rules and procedures. So that is an action that's been taken by the party, and obviously the members affected have also been given the right of appeal. In terms of what's happening within the Senate and what also happened here, there was a reconstitution of the parties, of the committees and the leadership. Again, because of the feeling among the top leadership of the party that people need to move in the same direction. And hence, if you divided attention, if you making statements out there that are contradictory to where the government wants or where the party leadership wants, then it doesn't look good that you're being relied upon to carry the government agenda, but you are giving contradictory views on the same. And hence the cleaning up that was done. And that cleaning up will continue, even at the committee level.
Will it go as high as impeaching somebody?
Impeachment is is something I would not even want to see in this house.
If it comes,
I was a victim of some malicious impeachment that was totally unprocedural, and I worked very hard when we were doing the 2010 Constitution to make sure there's a very, there's a procedure with a proper due process in terms of how you impeach somebody. So it's not just you wake up in the morning, you don't like somebody and you bring a motion. So it's fair to say it, and I'm not quite sure that anyone would actually get that threshold to be able to impeach, not even a fellow member or even a cabinet secretary, and by the time people are even thinking, or people at the levels of deputy president or president, it's a long shot.
So your faction of the Jubilee Party will not be making any move against anybody?
It's not worth.
All right.
Because we want is to focus on going forward on the agenda of the day rather than distractions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Serfine, that was the majority leader in the National Assembly. He is also the Deputy Member of Parliament, Amos Kimunya, talking about what to expect as Parliament begins the 5th session today. The National Assembly and the Senate, they will be sitting in the afternoon, and of course those are discussions which our viewers can always tune in and watch on KBC. Both houses will be approving members to House Business Committees. Of course, without that committee, then business of the House cannot proceed. My name is Edward Kabasa, live from Parliament. I hand it back to you.
Kabasa, for that interview. Kabasa was having a sit down with the majority leader, Amos Kimunya, talking about what lies ahead for the members of parliament as they resume back to business today. A lot has really emanated from that conversation. And the BBI initiative, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill of 2020, according to the majority leader, is also expected to be top of the agenda. We will be talking about you know, how this conversation, how this debate, what should guide this debate going forward, because he has said that on other matters, for example, health, they usually have a non-partisan debate. On this BBI bill, will it be the same case? Will it be the same case? We'll be having that conversation with Steve Mogaka, a constitutional lawyer, and of course also we'll be joined on the other side by John Mutunga, the Member of Parliament for Tigania West. We are just going to be taking a very short break. When we come back, we are picking up from that interview by the Majority Leader Amos Kimunya, plus other matters that are going to shape a conversation. Continue interacting with us on social media at KBC Channel 1. We take that break now.